when you want to display some statement or multiple statements again and again. On that case, we are using this iterative statement. If condition is false in the beginning itself, then not even single time the statement in while loop it will execute. The set of statements are executed again and again until the condition is true. Here if I am going to write I plus plus, then it is incrementing operator. If I am going to write I minus minus, then it is decrementing. Welcome back to one and all. Myself, Vasanta, lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysore. Today, we want to start with fourth session of problem solving methodology. Whereas in the previous session, already you come to know regarding the sequential programming construct. That is, it is the ability of the programming language to execute the statement again and again. That is iterative. Whereas sequential is nothing but it's the ability of the programming to execute the statement one after the another. First statement, then second statement, then third statement, only one entry and only one exit. That is sequential. Whereas the second one is selection. Here, it's the ability of the programming language to execute the statement depending upon the condition. Whichever statement we want, that statement we can able to select here by using simple if statement, if else statement, if else if statement, nested statement, as well as switch statement. And the last one, iterative. Under that, what do you mean by iterative statement? That is the ability of the programming language to execute the statement again and again. Whereas in sequential, one after the another. Whereas under selection, whichever statement we want, that statement we can able to select depending upon the requirement. Whereas iteration means some statements when you want to repeatedly execute, then we are using iterative statements. Whereas today we are going to explain iterative construct or looping. Under that, while construct, do while construct, as well as for construct. What do you mean by while looping, do while looping, as well as for looping? Regarding that, you will come to know on today's session. Now, one by one we will discuss. The first one is iterative construct, or we can say it as looping here. What do you mean by iterative? Iterative is nothing but repetition. It is the ability of the programming language to execute some statement again and again. Repeatedly, when you want to execute some statement, that statement can be called as iterative statement. In some problems, we need to execute a statement or a set of statements until some condition is satisfied. For this purpose, iterative statements are used here. When you want to display some statement or multiple statements again and again, on that case, we are using this iterative statement. When we come on types of iterative statement, under that conditional looping and one more is unconditional looping. Under conditional, we have while loop as well as do while loop. Whereas under unconditional looping, for loop we have. Conditional looping means until some particular condition has to be satisfied, till that the statements are executing. Now, when we come on while construct, this is also called as pre-tested looping. Why it is called as pre-tested? Because before executing the statement, first it will going to test the condition. Before executing the statement, it will going to check the condition. That's why it is called as pre-tested looping. This structure checks the condition at the beginning of the structure only. In the beginning itself, it will going to check the condition. If condition is true, consider here we have condition. If condition, if it is true, then it will going to execute the statement. If it is false, once again, it will go to come out from the loop here. Whereas the set of statements are executed again and again until the condition is true. Here, the statement will execute once again, one by one until the condition is true. Once if it is false, then it will come out from the loop here. When condition is false, control will transferred out of the structure. Once it is false, then it will come out from the loop here. Now, if you observe the flowchart as well as the syntax, There, see, first if condition, whatever condition you have, first it will check the condition. If condition is true, statement will execute. If it is true, how many statements we want? All those statements we can write here. After executing that, once again it will go back to test the condition. Here, this statement will execute again and again until this condition is true. Once the condition is false, then it will come out from the loop here. This is nothing but while loop. If you observe the flowchart, see, first in the syntax, first initialization, whichever variable we want, that we can initialize here. Then compulsory here, you have to use the keyword while. Then inside the bracket, you have to write the condition. Whatever condition you want, that conditions here you can write. Then inside the flower bracket, write down the statement, which statement you want to execute or which statement you want to print. Then write down increment or decrement operator. Then close this while loop. It means that while is called it as pre-tested because in the beginning itself, it will check the condition. If it is true, then only statement here it is going to execute. That's why it is called it as pre-tested looping. For example, in the beginning itself, if the condition is false, then not even single time the statement will execute. If condition is false in the beginning itself, then not even single time the statement in while loop it will execute. But if you observe the example, for example, we want to print the numbers from 1 to 10. Just one by one, I want to print the numbers 1 to 10. Then first I am initializing I equals 1. See here, first step initialization we are done. That is I equals 1, like that we are initializing. While I is less than or equals to 10, till that it has to process. What is the process? It has to print the value of I. First time it will print 1. Then I will increment by 1. I, previous case it is 1, now it is 2. Then afterwards once again it will check the condition. Condition satisfy because 2 is less than 10 only. Then it will print that number 2 once again. Then after that once again I will increment. Now it is 3. Check the condition. Condition satisfy. Like that all the number it will display until 10. Then once again here I will increment by 1. Now it is 11. Then it will go to the loop. Then condition not satisfied because I, if it is less than or equals to 10, till that only it has to execute. Once it is 11, then here no need to process. It has to come out from the loop here. That's why this while loop is also called as pre-tested looping. In the beginning itself, it checked the condition. And here, if you observe, here we have not written any semicolon because while loop here again and again, here it has to execute. That's why. Next, when they come on do while construct, this is also called it as post-tested looping or post-tested loop. Why it is called as post-tested looping? Because in this, first it will not going to check the condition. First it will display the statement. After displaying the statement, then later on it will check the condition. First, whatever statement we want, that statement here it will display. After displaying the statement, then it will check the condition. If condition. If it is true, then it will go back to execute the statement once again. Once if it is false, then it will come out from the loop here. This structure, check the condition at the end of the structure. First statement, then it will check the condition. That's why it is called as post-tested looping. The set of statements are executed again and again until the condition is true. As long as the condition is true, the statement will again and again, it will go to execute here. Once the condition is false, then it will come out from the loop here. When condition is false, the control transferred out of the structure here. Once if it is false, it will come out from the loop here. If you observe the flowchart as well as syntax and example, see in the syntax, first we have to initialize whichever variable you want. Then you have to mention do this operation. That's why it is called as do while statement. Then here we will write the statement, whichever statement you want you can write. Then perform increment or decrement operation. These are the operations here it has to perform, these two operations. Then later on, while condition, then semicolon. If you observe here, first we are written do, then while. Here, under while, we are written the condition, then semicolon. Whereas in while loop, if you observe the syntax, here first we have while, then condition. This is the while loop. Whereas in do while loop, first we have do, then statement, increment or decrement. Finally, you have while and then condition. Compulsory here you have to write semicolon for do while statement. Then if you observe this flow chart, first it will go to execute the statement. After executing the statement only, it will check the condition. If it is true, then once again it will go back to execute the statement. Here the statement will execute how long the condition is true. Once the condition is false, then finally it will come out from the loop. That's why it is called as do while statement or do while loop. First, do the statement. Then later on, check the condition. That's why it is also called as post-tested looping. For example, I want to print the numbers from 1 to 10. Then what we will do? First, we will initialize I equals 1. Here if you observe the syntax, first we initialize I equals 1. Then we will mention do. Inside this do, we have statements that will print I value, then increment the I, then while I is less than or equals to 10. In this, first what happens, I will initialize it by 1, then we are given do statement, then it will enter to the loop. Now, I has to be print, then whatever value in the I, that it will going to print 1. Then it will check the condition, I is less than 10 only, that is 1 only, then it will increment, once again it will go and execute it as 2, print the 2. Then once again it will increment by 1, 3, then check the condition satisfied, once again it will go back to the loop, it will print it as 3, then it is increment by 4. Like that, it will print up to 10. Then once again, after that, after printing 10, once again I will increment by 1, now it is 11. Then it will check the condition, I is less than or equals to 10. The condition not satisfied, then it will come out from the loop. It means that here, this can be called as post-tested because in the beginning itself, first it will execute the statement. After that only, it will going to check the condition. That's why it is called as post-tested looping. Because in the exam, usually you will get the question, write the difference between while loop and do while loop. Then what are the major difference? Whereas in while loop, it check the condition first and then execute the statement. In the beginning itself, it will check the condition. If condition is true, then only it will to execute the statement. Whereas in do while loop, this loop will execute the statement at the last once, then the condition is checked. And here in while loop allows initialization of counter variable before starting the body of the loop. Whereas under do while loop allows initialization of counter variable before and after starting the body of a loop here. And here it is an entry controller loop, whereas here it is an exit controller loop. Then here we do not need to add a semicolon at the end of the while loop. Whereas in the do while loop, at the end compulsory you have to put semicolon. We need to add a semicolon at the end of the while condition. At the end compulsory you have to put semicolon. See, if you observe here we are written the semicolon for do while. But for while you are not supposed to put any semicolon. Then in case of single statement, we do need to add a brackets, whereas here brackets are always needed. Compulsory we have to write that. And when they come on while loop, in this loop, the condition is mentioned to the starting of the loop. In the beginning itself, it has to mention. The loop condition is specified after the block is executed. Generally, while loop is written as general syntax, first while, then condition, inside the bracket we have statements. Whereas under do while, the general syntax is do, then inside the bracket write down, then while. See here in the beginning itself we are written while condition, and here at the end we are written while condition. But in the beginning you have to mention do. And here we are not using any semicolon, but here we have to use semicolon. If the condition is false, Then what happens in while loop? Not even single time the statement will execute. Whereas in do while loop, if the condition is false, then also it won't execute a single time, because before checking the condition itself, it won't execute the statement. That's why. Next, we will explain regarding for construct. Whereas for construct, this structure is a fixed execution structure. Fixed execution. Whereas here in the beginning itself, we come to know how many times the statement will execute again and again. Whereas in while as well as in do while, in the beginning we cannot predict. Depending upon the condition only, there it will going to execute. Here in for loop, it is fixed execution structure we used to say. Because in the beginning itself, we can identify how many times the statement will execute, because at the time of declaration only, we will mention the initial value, final value, whether it is incrementing or decrementing, everything will mention. That's why it is called as fixed execution looping. It is usually used when we know in advance exactly how many times a set of statement is to be repeatedly executed again and again. In the beginning only, we can know how many times the statement will execute. For example, for compulsory you have to use the keyword for, then expression 1, expression 2, then expression 3. All the expressions are separated by semicolon operator. Here inside the bracket, whatever statement you want, you can write. What exactly the first expression will tell you? The first expression will tell you the initialization value. For example, for here I equals 0. If I'm going to write I equals 0, this is the starting position, initial position. Then after that, you have to put semicolon, then second expression. For example, I is less than n. That means the final value here will mention. Whereas the third expression will tell you whether it's incrementing or decrementing. Here, if I'm going to write I plus plus, then it is incrementing operator. If I'm going to write I minus minus, then it is decrementing. I is decrementing here. Whereas first expression will tell you the initialization value, by which number, which is the starting position. Then second statement, test condition, that is final value, how long it has to be executed. And third expression will tell you whether it is incrementing or decrementing, which exactly it is performing, whether we are adding by 1 or we are subtracting by 1. Regarding that, you will come to know in expression 3. And here, whatever statement you want, that statement we can print. Now we'll explain the flowchart as well as some example. Consider here for control variable, CV stands for control variable, equals initial value to final value, which is the starting point and which is the final point you have to mention. Then here, how many statements you want? All the statements you can write one by one, statement 1, 2, 3, D. How many statements we want? We can write. Then afterwards, the control variable will transfer back to the loop once again here. For example, I want to print the numbers from 1 to 10. For example, on this case, what happens? How here we have to write? First, we are initializing I equals 1. Then that is the initial value, expression 1. If you observe here, the first expression, that is initial value. Then here, I is less than or equals to 10. The condition satisfied. Then it will enter to the loop. Here, what we are given, it has to print I value. Then in the beginning, we initialize it as 1. Now I it will print. That is 1 it will going to print. Then, once again it will go back to the loop. I will increment by 1. Now it is 2. It check the condition. 2 is less than 10 only. Then once again it will come up to the loop and it will print 2. Then once again it will go back to the loop. I is now it is 3. Check the condition. Condition satisfied. Then it will print 3. Then once again it will go back to the loop. Now I is increment by 1. Now I is 4. Then it will check the condition. Then it will print 4. Like this, up to 10 it will print. After printing 10, once again it will go back to the loop and I now become 11. After that, here it will check the condition. Condition not satisfied. Then finally it will come out from the loop here. It means that each and every time it will check the condition. And then if condition is true, then only statement will execute. It means that in iterative statement, we have 3. One is while, do while, and one more is for. While can be called as pre-tested. Do while can be called as post-tested, whereas for loop can be called as fixed execution statements. Here, why it is called as fixed execution? because in the beginning itself, we can predict exactly how many times the statement will execute here. That's why it is called as fixed execution statement. Then from this you come to know that CV represents control variable, IV represent initial value, FV represent final value. Now is it clear? Then next class you will come to know the remaining concept regarding this chapter. Thank you for all of you.